Now, I've had a lot of fun this season on Sorare 26 using the Road to Glory content here on the channel to have a look at the best budget options to go and, get some shining lights of success as well as have some fun with the game in the limited competitions with the likes of the Premier League and La Liga cards, chasing all those extra bonus hot streaks and all the other promotions that Sorare have been running so far. But as a lot of you guys will know, my primary strategy for how to win money on Sorare this year has all been about my Celtic Rare in-season collection. This is obviously something I've done a few times over at this point, but with the change in landscape that we've had in Sorare in the previous seasons up to now, it's been a bit of a moving feast. Coming into this year, we had a bit of an idea of, exactly how the land would lay, what the lay of the land would be. And from there, I'd moved out of my super rares with the idea of really going after winning in-season competitions, and particularly hot streaks with Celtic in-season cards, as well as the other cards that are now in the Challenger region alongside them. This is the second or third video in the series we're doing, and now that we're in the international dead zone, if I can say that, the international break, it's the perfect kind of little checkpoint to take stock and have a look at, the gallery, situation, how many cards have we got, what we've spent, what we've got, how competitive are we, and this is a video that you guys generally love to play along with at home as well. So if you've not done this sort of housekeeping on your own strategy, on your own gallery, this is a great moment to take a wee step back, reflect, count up the beans, count up the chips and the wins and the essence and the crafts and everything else that goes along there. And, do you readjust your strategy? Do you charge on the way you're going? Do you pull back? There's a few different crossroads we might find ourselves at any point in the video. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you are brand new to Sorare and you've not opened up your account yet, there's a link in the description in this video and in the pinned comment that is guaranteed to be the best sign up bonus that's available. Right now, it's the biggest it's ever been. It's $150, pounds, euros, whatever your currency is, of market credit to go out and reinforce your roster. The amount you get is linked to purchases on site, so make sure to read the T's and C's. If you click on that link, you do support me and all the content here, so if you get stuck or anything, just drop a comment, reach out, and I'll help you out as best I can. And if you're looking for beginner tutorials, they are also linked in the description of the video. The new to Sorare Start Here playlist, as you'll find it. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Just in case you're new around here, or in case you're struggling to keep up with all the videos that are out there, we'll do a little bit of a recap. Coming into the season, from where we have Lucas Fadinger backwards is the starting squad that we picked up at the beginning of the season. We didn't have any market credits for these. We were raw dogging it on auctions and instant buys, and I think there was some essence promotions that we got involved in, but in total we spent £797.97, 3 pence under 798 essentially, on the seed squad, on the starting squad that we had to run into the season. We had our first craft of the season and we used our clues, and this is something that's been working very well for me this season. Is I'm very much in the camp of no clue, no craft. The benefit of the crafting system is so that I can avoid cards I do not want, dross cards I do not want, and and again, in a lot of cases I'm throwing cards back in there because, again, if you wind back the clock, if you wind back time, and you said, Quinny, would you rather win this rubbish tier 5 that's never going to play, or take 100 essence back, or whatever the chargeback cost is, I would probably take the essence again. So we've had quite a consistent strategy when it comes to crafting, and I think that's the number one kind of little hint or tip or whatever that I think I would offer anyone out there when it comes to crafting is consistent actions are going to keep you sane. Consistent actions, consistent results is a big mantra I've got on the channel for all my Sorare strategies, and I think for crafting it's maybe not quite as important because there is chance, risk and luck all involved in it, and you could really just, I'm pretty sure I've heard that the best way to play the lottery is to always just take random numbers, because you've got a better chance of finding a random number at random than you do picking the same number, hoping it comes out as a random number. But anyway, we pulled a Raskin out of a standard draw. We found out he was in the Scottish League, and we found out he was Belgian, so that was a great indicator where we're maybe going to get a card that we would like. Sadly it wasn't, but thankfully it was a valuable card. We managed to sell this for £95.85, and that managed to get us Anderson Talisca, which was a big midfield upgrade. Midfield is a real problem area here. An in-season goalkeeper and Dimitar Mitov, and it also got us in Keelan Adams, another kind of team 3 level defender that we could play with while the squad was thin, just to give those backup teams some sort of credibility, some sort of way of going. And this is the last game week where we're coming out of. So at this point, we're going to add a new column into it, and that is going to be players sold. So we've got the Nicholas Raskin. Now, it must vary from the pages you look at, because in my notes it's 96.27, but on this it says 95.85. So for the sake of the maths I've already prepared, I'm going to say this guy was £96.27. Don't come at me for it. And after we've left the game week that's on screen here, we've won 91 quid, and that's £31 off the leaderboard, as you can see here, as well as hitting the streak a couple of times. We've also picked up 1,803 essence and 1,000 XP. Now, I do have other strategies going, and I am not tally marking them and keeping track of them so far to the same extent that I am for my main money team. This is something I might visit later on in the season as maybe like a mid-season thing, look at my overall rare composition or champion classic, or there's a few other kind of cross sections of the gallery I'll probably revisit in more detail later on. But the weekend after this was a cup weekend for Celtic, so I had other teams playing, and I got some general essence anyway to craft with, as well as, you know, I'd already won a barrel of essence out of the region that I was playing with, so there was plenty of stuff going on even without me actually having in-season lineups in this time here, because every league does have a weekend where they're playing cup games or they're off or whatever, so this is going to happen to everyone at some point. And sadly with the Scottish League, we always get those cup weekends within the first month before we get to the international break, and game week 1 was when I got this here. Now, I did get some international or midweek utility, is probably the correct way of putting it, sorry, utility for my in-season Celtic cards. Now again, I do have classics. The price of classics are very nominal, and if anyone was going to be doing any of these in-season strategies, you would have a little cohort of some classic cards to use around. And basically, looking at the cards I own and, you know, whatever, yada yada, I would have probably had a little team going out in here. How well would it have done? Hard to say, really. But one thing I can say with confidence is the backup throwaway under 23 team picked up 100 essence out of here. Now, I don't think there's under 23 essence. I think this comes in as neutral essence or all-star essence, as it'll be known. And that's something maybe just to think about. But in this time, we'd also crafted a CD Jata, and we'd sold him into the bots for £10. So we'll add that into the player sales column. And I'm kind of regretting it, because now with some of the transfer outs that Strumpgratz has done, he's been starting games, he's been scoring goals, and another forward in this region. And again, with the clues, this is where we ended up going with this guy. You know, team 3, team 4 maybe even, this guy would be somewhat usable right now. I also pulled another Strumpgratz card in the form of Axel Kayombo, who is a flat out DNP. I probably should have just tossed him back for essence, but I thought, oh, under 23 forward, maybe we'll just hang on to him. But I eventually ended up selling him alongside a massive card, the biggest card we've crafted of the season so far quite easily, a Dominic Fitz. Now, we did a big video on this, you've probably seen it at the time, and you probably know the whole situation with it, but we sold Fitz and Kayombo combined for £240.93. So in terms of the value, they go together. So our player sales has an extra £240.93 onto it. And if you caught that video about the Dominic Fitz, you'll know that from that card, what we did is we went and we reinvested the cash, and we went and got ourselves an Austin Trusty, a Luke McCowan, a Dyson Maeda, a Arnie Engels, and a Jota. And that was like an exact match of the amount of money we raised. So we managed to get like a 5-man Celtic stack essentially out of moving on the Dominic Fitz and the Kayombo as a pair. That meant we were going after streak 3, and we were at home to Livingston, and I nailed my 5. I got 5 starters, and I just made the wrong captain choice. Now, if I changed captain, I could have maybe got a little bit closer. It's hard to say for definite that I would have got there, but I certainly had the right scores across the board. I had good enough cards everywhere else where if I'd got my best 5 together, I would have hit it, but I probably would never have picked the best 5 having bought the cards that I had bought. Had I not bought any cards in the whole Dominic Fitz thing, I wouldn't have been able to use Dominic Fitz, because at that point he had transferred over. But my best forward card would have been Claudio Braga. My best midfielder card would have been Talisca. And, you know, Braga, you get a little bit of benefit to Maeda. And with Talisca, there's a full 40-point clip there. So if Talisca went in and Talisca or Braga was captain, job done. Even with, you know, it wouldn't have been Arnie Engels, it would have been maybe Forrest or Fadinger. You can't cry over spilled milk, can you? So we dropped at the third streak. We didn't hit it, but we'd picked up an additional 564 essence and 1500 XP. We then had a midweek where the under 23 kind of like squad guys didn't quite scrape their way into picking up some essence, but Celtic defensive players scored pretty well, and we picked up 100, I've got 200 rare essence from the game week itself. But with Amiri and Shaqiri in one of the teams, let's just forget about that. And I don't mind thinking about this 100 essence kind of factoring in to the essence that we've won with our in-season cards. Because again, all these characters essentially we would have access to in in-season form. And for the likes of Scales and McGregor, getting it at Classic isn't unimaginable. And throughout this time, I'm then able to craft another card out of all the essence that we've pulled. And we got a Harvey Elliott by, again, using clues, seeing it was the only Premier League card in the lot and just picking it on the hope that it would be a valuable card. Now, I maybe should have hung on to it a little bit longer after he completed his move to Aston Villa, but I managed to sell him for £67. And I've got 27 pence on my calculations here, so we'll stick to my calculations rather than this little change that we've got here, which up to this international break that we're at should take our player sales column to £414 and 47 or 97 pence. I can't read my writing there, but that should be 3 pence under 415 is where we should be at the moment. I'm pretty sure that's where it is. Now, the seed squad that we started with ended at Fadinger, okay? And then from then onwards, through organic player trading in the game, we've managed to raise £415 in game to, you know, I could have just withdrew that money and kept with the same base squad that we had and then just kept going and trying to finish, you know, the kind of the break-even mission, as it were. But I find that this time in the market, it really does make a better sense to beat off the depreciation you're getting on your cards, because when you buy as early as I did for the first game of the season, you're on a sharp decline in terms of the value you've got. And a good way of safeguarding the value and compounding in those early wins, especially if you do win like a Dominic Fitz that you're not able to actually retain and build into your team, is to make sure you get as much in as quickly as possible at the most effective way you possibly can. And all of these, so from Talisca all the way to Welsh, who's moved to Motherwell, so it made buying that collection piece a little bit more worthwhile. That whole extra leg of the branch or the main trunk now that's coming out of the seed of the team that we've built here is cost 512. Now, I've not got any idea on market credits that I think were used for some of them, but the difference in those two numbers, what we've spent in building the trunk and what we've earned from the market, is £97 and 49 pence. And for all intents and purposes, I'm very happy to just think about that as Balikwisha, me going into the market, reading the room on a transfer rumour and getting a guy in, because again, the main problem I had post Dominic Fitz was being able to afford a Ben Negren. Now, Ben Negren is still, in terms of in-season pricing, still sky high, right where he was when I won the Fitz, so there's been no easy entry point to get with him, no sort of price depreciation or anything like that. So rather than buying the Negren, spending the Balikwisha, which has essentially cost my pocket another £97.49, which if we add that on to the squad spend, would take that to £895.46. We then go into the last game week before the international break, and it's a Glasgow derby away at Mordor. And you know, I was optimistic, right? But Celtic weren't in a great place. They were in an even worse place, and it would have only been for the first streak, but we still didn't hit it, which is just absolutely wild. We get 342 points with the Balikwisha card debuting. Sadly, there was just no shots, no attacking play at all. We were so close to it, and if anything had happened, it would have, one of these three guys would have been a part of it, you'd like to think, at the very least, and we would have got there, but very close, no cigar. And across all the teams, you know, we didn't really clutch in. But we see Scott Bain here, we've seen Inamura in a previous game week as well, and there is something to be said for those bottom end teams having 5 starters, and if one of them pops off, one of them unexpectedly starts, you know, that's one of the benefits of having a collection in a squad and then really homogenising it in the region with just like the Braga, the Talisca, the Fadinger, even Montgomery, some of these collection pieces that you can get access to just really like flesh the squad out a lot further. And we add into our tally 667 rare essence as well as 2000 XP. And as you've seen a few times, this is where we currently sit right now. So I'm actually quite chuffed with where we're at overall. I'm obviously bitterly disappointed we've not maximised these double up promotions and the real getting to the third, the fourth, the fifth step of the hot streak, which was the strategy's stated objective. But Celtic have been, I don't want to say uncharacteristically shit, because sometimes we are shit, and like having a Celtic collection is covered in pain as well as glory as well. So, you know, we're kind of rolling the dice in that regard, I suppose, with Brendan Rodgers, the transfer policy, ins and outs and everything. It's not quite worked out, but I do feel that now that we're past the transfer window, we should get a better version of Daisen Maeda. And there was a big worry with buying this card that he would actually leave, so I think he might still leave in January, to be honest with you. But having him, the likes of Balikwisha as well, we've got Jota on ice for when he returns as well. But the strategy overall, if I look at the team and I look at the squad, and I look ahead to the first game week that we've got after the international window, I don't mind where we're sitting right now, but the Celtic defence, the midfield, like there's injuries, there's question marks, there's lack of actual performance, really all over the place. And I've got some real headaches in this squad. Like I don't really feel good about much of it, to be honest with you. Like midfield is shaky. Hatate, we know he's going to play, but he's just not been doing it. The defence are all injury ridden, and even if you go for Scales, I've already got Trusty, so like that's a kind of jeopardy situation. Maybe I've already got a good opportunity at. And Vickers, Dane Murray, Simpson Pussy, there's a lot, and I've got Johnson and Ralston. Obviously, need a Kobe Donovan, and if he gets a card, obviously, just for that extra layer of cover. It seems, but I think Ralston will be fine, having not played Scotland duty. But Arnie Engels isn't starting games. Johnny Kenny made the Europa League squad, but wasn't in the Derby Day squad. The thing's an absolute mess. And then when you look at the other players around the place, does Talisca start every week? Hard to say. Keelan Adams is at a bottom half team, so is one or two of these other guys. Sriracha, Yang, like they're going to come off the bench more often than not. We're still missing a bit of something, I feel, like I think the best team can look good and feel good, but when you know the reality and the temperature of the room, like Tierney has missed Scotland duty. This is a game against Kilmarnock away. The pitch is plastic. Tierney and Vickers, I would be worried about them, and I would avoid them for my best team. I'm happy to play them in Team 3 or something like that, Team 2 at a push, but nervous about that. Obviously the right backs are all injured, etc. And the strikers I'm actually quite happy with, to be honest with you, but it feels like one of the real problem positions for me is still kind of midfield and defence, because across these two guys, even somebody like Braga, I've got guys like Classic Sané and Classic Serie A cards where we can just about make this work if we've got more in-season goalkeeper action. So I'm a little bit between a rock and a hard place. I do quite like the fact that this gallery or this strategy has yielded so much so far without me banking it in, but rather by further compounding it. So I want to strengthen the team. I have a wallet that can strengthen the team, but I'm also kind of half hesitant because I just don't want to make the money I've spent less valuable, in the sense of like I mentioned with one of those other ones, if I didn't buy those cards, I would have hit streak number 3 with the original strategy. If I hadn't won the fits and did the trade that we did, even if I'd managed to somehow swap fits for Negren, it would have been a home run. We would have absolutely nailed it. So I'm happy and I'm confident with a lot of the things I've bought, but I still do feel like, I've been eyeing up a Savic. There he is right there on auction. I've been trying to maybe even try and get a Schmeichel in. With the wallet I've got, I could get a Schmeichel, and that would be me tapped out again. But it would then allow me to play a classic outfielder, which really I've got infinite solutions for. So I kind of see the Casper as being high value, but on primary market, it's maybe going to go a wee bit beyond me at the moment. In midfield, like let's just filter by midfield, because I don't think there's too many players I'm actually ready to hang my hat on. Even McGregor's not been really doing it, and that's normally the easy play. He's normally a bit overpriced. I do quite like the look of this Yarinki guy. Everyone loves him. He's been smashing. He's very cheap by comparison to some other guys, but it's that Danish calendar, I guess, isn't it? And maybe I'm trying to be too much of a perfectionist by thinking about the fixture correlation, making sure they all line up, but I do think it's something that I want to be mindful of, because one of the good times for Celtic is the festive period, and that can't be understated at this point. There is some interesting guys here, but there's nobody I look at and go, oh yeah, that guy fixes all my problems, Maybe Yarinki's the closest to it. Edson Alvarez at Fenerbahce could be an absolute hatchet, by the way, in a good way. We've got Engels, we've got Hatate, and then if we look at instant buy, the thing is, when Negren being a forward, he's very powerful, but you kind of want him as a midfielder, because he is playing midfield, and we don't have any other mids that are really performing to the level that he is. So it's just a weird one. And there's lots of nice guys here, but the price point of some of them is kind of hard. And like McGregor's not been that great, so if McGregor did bounce out, I've got Engels, I'd be fine, I like the thought of Zalazar, but he's not perfect, is he? If he's not transferring out and he can get back into this type of form, that's rather usable, isn't it? I like Gabri Vega a lot. I think he's a wee bit overpriced. If he was like 40 quid or something, I'd probably bounce on that. I do quite like Borja Sainz whenever I'm doing gallery reviews for all the channel members every Thursday, although I don't really see him here. Maybe I'm just going blind. So I've been looking at this non-stop thinking, where do I spend to just fix the solutions? I do end up just always coming back to Casper because of all the classic versatility I've got. That just getting the keeper just means, for the problem spot, I've got enough decent in season where the problem can be fixed with classic. João Moutinho catches my eye, doesn't he? It's just a wee AA magnet. Not going to play all the time, but at his ripe old age. But I don't know, I still quite like the Zalazar. I think the Portuguese calendar is not too bad, isn't it? But I'm still going to be tuning this one over while we go through the international window. I think Schmeichel remains kind of priority 1 for me. I think just the flexibility that then gives me in this situation here is, if we just imagine this was an in-season Schmeichel, we could play Balikwisha and Maeda all we want. Hatate is going to play, so fine. And then defence, I could play Vickers, I could play Scales, I could play anybody if I'm worried about Tierney on the surface. We would then have a classic Schmeichel to go down a step. That makes this team better. We then have an in-season Mitov, which means this team could get a classic outfielder into it. And then this team's in the same situation, really, isn't it? But with maybe some better options to field it. So I think the cascade effect, I think Schmeichel is the play. But let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below, because after this international break is when we start to get down to business in the season. We've got midweek European football, the transfer window's closed, all teams, managers and players are focused on having a great season for the World Cup, and it's all eyes on to, you know, the next international break, the next kind of chapter of the season. So rotation should be quite forecastable. You'll be able to tell when, you know, some of these guys should have a good game and who'll be rotating and all the rest of it. And I think we've had a great start to the season, you know, selling £415 worth of cards and winning $91 off of an initial outlay of $7.97, which has now become $8.50 or whatever it was. It's on screen, you'll know what it is. I think is actually pretty good, and we were so close. If we'd hit that third streak, that would have been an extra $400 into the kitty, which, you know, would have just been perfect, wouldn't it? So hey, what's for us won't go by us, and maybe we need to learn these lessons and take these bumps on the way to smashing the 5 streak as much as we do this season. Fingers crossed for that. Let me know how your season's getting on as well in the comment section down below, with your primary strategy, the main thing you've been running at this season to try and win money on Sorare 26. On screen there now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. If you did enjoy the video, hit the like button. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.